Well, so I mean, I felt like showing this and you only because obviously the Futaba vibes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like about the so there's with like Kazumi, there's the motivated sister, but like isn't there like the motivated daughter? Like, does this read very like Confucian, like
I
collective,
think
like
so.
yeah, like
I
what?
mean, I'm even kind of trying to kind of think about a lot of my own decisions in hindsight. Um, for context, I grew up in, I wouldn't say not necessarily like a very strict household. Um, but like I feel like there's two things that made it feel like I don't know if I'm inherently someone who tries to be kind of like responsible. I wonder if it's because both of my parents as well had to take on like responsibility from a really young age for like one of the parents in their household. Um and so it's like my mom was sick pretty much all of my life or childhood. It didn't get really bad until I was in high school, but there was like a part of me that I think has this understanding of why, like, particularly maybe like children. I don't know. I've noticed this about like sometimes like Japanese stories of like high school children, but also high school aged like kids, but especially the girls. And especially if you're raised in, I think, like a kind of Christian household, it's like doubly kind of, it's on you to be, I think, very responsible and also do everything kind of like not make trouble for your parents. And not only that, like kind of do things for your parents, like for your family
Mhm.
kind of thing. And so there's a part of me that's wondering like how much of that is maybe like potentially my inherent nature at all, because
Mhm.
I do genuinely like to not just, you know, feel like my parents were very compassionate to me, so a lot of the times I also wanted to give back to them. So they were, yeah, like I don't know. I don't know exactly how much like I'm really maybe trying to speak too much for like Nozomi's situation, but it's just kind of she does strike me as like someone who's really young who had to like take on a lot of not typically children responsibilities
Mm.
from a very young age.
Just imagine you're out there, swatting lights in a makeup.
If you wanted to create, if you wanted to maybe make a wider connection about what like fantasy and like fictional things are in general, is that like oftentimes there's a manufactured narrative
Yeah,
that
and there's a
drives people to
so
then go
honestly,
fight.
well, I think this because I think there's also a reading of this like because when you see like there's certain backstories that like would be things that would be like empowering the little guy, but at the same time they're just used to serve capital and the power.
Yes, like it comes off as like a very pro little guy like narrative, but ultimately it was kind of manufactured by people in control
Yes.
to kind of convince
So it's
you
sort of like it's
that
just like the effects of how like of media like we were just like is Persona 5 revolutionary or not? And again, it's extremely damning to Japanese society, but is it ultimately just serving? I mean, in what does it actually serve in?
at the end of the day, I mean, to be fair, I think that's something too that in my opinion, I think the way that people consume media or stories, sometimes I think I would like to maybe see more people or players be okay with like kind of having a takeaway for themselves, like, because sometimes you can't always rely on like the full story to kind of tell you the main takeaway, right? Sometimes you kind of have to kind of build a takeaway for yourself. And I think sometimes in regards to Persona 5, I do understand that one of the critiques is that like it doesn't necessarily focus enough maybe on like what actual actionable things can people do to like change their society, because it did a very good job calling out the problems, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't really give like, I think, maybe a actionable takeaway of like what you could do to also affect your own community or society. And so sometimes I think Persona 5 can be a great starting point for people to learn about the things that like, you know, plague our society.
More specifically, Japanese society.
Yeah, more specifically Japanese society. And then like sometimes we have to be pragmatic ourselves a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like I just experienced an amazing story, amazing characters. I feel maybe inspired to do something about that, and then start affecting my own world from that. Instead of just, I guess, from my point is basically saying like, instead of just like merely consuming, right? Like just only consuming media only, and not necessarily like maybe, you know, at the end of the day, people's lives, you have to live your own life. But I do think, I personally would find it really cool to see maybe more people kind of not just simply be consumers of media only, but be inspired to then do stuff afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Here, she's gonna say the best freaking line in the game. I wonder if this planet has its own consciousness too. Wouldn't it be all strange like this? There's a chance humanity might make the same
Like,
mistake
yeah,
again.
Mother
Selfishness
Earth,
could
yo.
lead this planet to destruction, just like it did for Earth. This game is certified left wing. This game is certified left wing. There's no libertarian reading out of this. We are in a loop. We are in a freaking loop regarding the environment and our own destructive behavior. And if we don't get out of it, we are going to destroy million Earths.
Or like, well, the point is just more like, the point is more just like, as of now, we know that like in certain, right, like the capitalist systems, like it doesn't matter how much you like extract from both the earth or from people. It's like, as long as it's still driving profits, that's all that's most important.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just like, right now, there's a lot of like faux climate, like like they try to convince you that like, oh, if you only recycle more, or you know, go green and do all this stuff, it's going to like, greenwashing. It's going to like, you're fighting against climate change. And then at the same time, they also slowly make you feel a little guilty for not doing everything possible in your power to like make sure your own consumption of like, let's say plastics or that kind of thing is enough. Meanwhile, the biggest polluters of the earth is all big corporate profit, huge companies that are just like all the like emissions, or like, you know, just like burning down like cutting down literally all of the trees to just like create more for material to sell. You know, so it's just that kind of thing where it's ultimately the little guys, like all of our individual usage of like things is in the percentage of how much it is attributing to climate change is very small.
It's very small.
Just imagine you're out there, swatting lights in a makeup.
Yeah, I think that's the thing ultimately that unfortunately this is a very ideally you would, like to think people can like forgive to a certain, but like I think that is.
You think this ending is too overtly idealistic?
No, I don't think it's like the thing is that because they don't show or try. See, this is the reason why stories can be very hard to write, right? Is that like a lot of the times they don't actually, you can't really showcase those 15 years in between.
All they said was, oh, we spoke to and gather on all the different factions, and they agreed to this.
Yeah, but like it's like the point of like you're not actually showing how difficult that was to actually achieve.
I mean, in the other ending where Nozomi is like and Commune is
compromise.
dead, like Nozomi's like struggling and she's like a peace advocate, but like nothing is going.
But
well.
nothing's really happening. Yeah, because like so like in this ending, the thing is that like I think ultimately it's not wrong or not like a bad thing to want to portray that like ultimately we were able to reach like a level of peace.
Yeah.
For this area or this but like the thing that does seem a little bit too idealistic to me is not necessarily the end result, but more that you don't show the hard work that goes into achieving the end result, right? Because it's like, oh, after 15 long years we did it, and it's like, what did those 15 long years look like? Because the thing is like once you are able to topple a dictator or an authoritarian regime, it's very hard to rebuild a functioning government or society that everyone still has some semblance of civil liberty, without one side trying to kind of do the same thing back. That makes sense, right? Like, don't you think so?
Yeah.
So it's just the other thing, which is worse, which is like you topple the dictator leader themselves, but it's that whole theory of like, you've heard of like the great man theory or figure, right? Like it's that belief of like there's that one person who's in charge of like all the decisions and all of the like turmoil. So it's like if we're able to get rid of this one authoritarian leader, we'll be fixed, right? But that's such a myth.
And here's the little thing regarding Israel, right? Is like I think it's ultimately right. Like, yes, what if the Palestinians rose up against Hamas? But at the same time, it's like, oh, that's what Netanyahu can be claiming to do is, oh, we're defeating Hamas to save the Palestinians, but they're really genociding them. But like at the end of at the same days, like at the same time, like this is what here's if it was actually homegrown as opposed to an outsider doing it. And in the context of this, they do not.
Yes.
Veshness is not something that's demonized in like Hamas is. They just demonize all of them as just like they're invaders. They're not. They don't even tell them that it's they're on a different planet. Like the brainwashing honestly goes deeper than the Hamas stuff, but they
dehumanize them to such an extent that you don't even care what their backstory is, who they are. Like they're not even human to you.
Just imagine you're out there, swatting lights in a makeup.
Oh, dude, we seppuku.
That's how they awaken every time. So P3, you shoot yourself in the head. This game, you stab yourself in the heart.
Dang, dude. Yeah, but it is very true that this is a very deliberately, like, Japanese, like, way to portray that. The whole part of, like, trying to fight against authoritarian regimes is kind of reminding, like, as much as it can be horrible that, like, people are, like, by people I mean, like, a lot of the times the soldiers of that country are being used to, like, sorry, I'm turning this inwards, like not necessarily like an invading force, but like how like soldiers within your own country are like doing things to their own populace, and it is kind of like very important to kind of try to appeal to the humanity of like saying things like, we know that you do not want to do this. It's like the people who are dictating what you should do as a soldier are like forcing you to do this, you know? And it's like, ideally, how true is that? Sometimes, because it is true, you do unfortunately get people who are like that Ato guy, right? Like they're just so deeply in the like propaganda that like they do become very violent. Like it's very hard to appeal to their humanity, basically.
But I mean, he's propagandized against the establishment, though.
Yes,
Which I guess is where
I mean-
Republican coded, but at the same time, he's also like, I mean, you sort of like originally read him as like an eco-terrorist in a way, but like he's not actually, just hates all humanity.
I mean, I think the point I'm trying to make is more just like ultimately, in order to like kind of achieve just peace in general, a lot of the times you want to try to kind of, yeah, just try to like appeal to whatever humanity there is in people who have been heavily propagandized to, for whatever reason it is, for whatever reason and whatever groups of people they've like been kind of taught to dehumanize.